All right, and we are live. Hi, everyone. Welcome. It's day 3 of virtual DrupalCon. I'm really excited to be here with you all today. My name is Dave Bohr, and I'm the Director of Partner Marketing at Acquia. I will be the moderator for today's expert panel session, Digital Transformation Makes the Earth Flat Again. We're going to come back to this title in just a minute. But first, I want to remind you that we are going to be having a live Q&A at the end of today's session. Be sure to use the chat window to submit your questions along the way, and we're going to be saving a nice chunk of time at the end to get to as many of those questions as we can. All right, well, let's fire this thing up. I am joined today by 4 fantastic leaders who represent some of the most awesome Acquia partners we have in our network. And along with their teams, these folks are helping to guide customers in their digital transformation journeys. That's what we're going to be talking about today. So without further ado, let me introduce our panelists, but we're just going to try something a little fun here today. I've got some walk-on music for these folks. We're going to see. Hopefully it doesn't sound like garbage, but you'll tell me afterwards. Feel free to, walk on, guys.
Yeah, I'm hearing that. I'm hearing that, Dave.
All right, enough of that. Enough of that. All right, folks, panelist number 1, Justin Emond is here. Justin is the founder and CEO of Third and Grove. Justin, please introduce yourself and give folks a quick elevator pitch on what Third and Grove does.
Yeah, I'm Justin. I'm based in Boston. We're a digital agency. We focus pretty much in 2 areas, in Drupal and in e-commerce and in Shopify Plus. We work with a lot of clients in different sectors all over the US.
Terrific. Happy to have you here, Justin. Thanks for joining. Next up, we've got Josh Leonard, Chief Revenue Officer at MediaCurrent. Welcome, Josh. Tell us about yourself and MediaCurrent.
Thank you, Dave. First of all, just wanted to say it's unfortunate we weren't always able to meet in person at DrupalCon this year. Really miss the in-person time, the shop talk, and all the great after parties, but we're happy to be here today. I'm Chief Revenue Officer with MediaCurrent. We essentially assist the large enterprise in the adoption and optimization of open source software, namely Drupal, and we've been in business since 2007.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Happy to have you here, Josh. Up next, Felicia Haynes, VP of Account Services at Phase 2. What's up, Felicia?
Hi. Hey, y'all. I'm here in the hot South. I'm with Phase 2, and we are a digital experience agency, and we're looking to, create digital experiences that enhance the human experience and work with some really great organizations to unlock the potential for people to engage with them anywhere and everywhere.
That's awesome. Well, psyched to have you here. And finally, Ricardo Osuna, Senior Director of Strategic Partnerships at FFW. Ricardo, floor is yours.
Hey, everyone. Great to be here today. I'm calling in from the San Francisco Bay Area, and this is I was trying to count, I think it's my 7th DrupalCon. So like Josh said, it's unfortunate we couldn't be in person, but it's great to at least have the virtual DrupalCon experience. And yeah, FFW, we are a global digital platform agency. So we work with organizations. We're in 10 different countries, about 375 people, and really focus on, like a lot of these folks, on the promotion of Drupal to our customers, and really the focus on how that fits into their overall digital experience platform.
Fantastic. Excellent. Well, good segue, Ricardo. Thanks for mentioning that. We're going to kick things off with our first question here. Here we are. It's virtual DrupalCon, the mecca of Drupal. All 4 of you represent agencies who are among the top contributors to Drupal. And I happen to know that that is very intentional. So why is it so important for you and your agency? Justin, let's start with you.
Yeah, we do contribute a lot. It's expensive, and there's time involved and impacts client work. I think about open source like sort of like a financial system, like a bank. And like banks are great. They're usually banks are great. They're part of a community. They lend capital out, they take deposits, and they let people do really interesting things. And so, every time you use something that's open source, whether it's like Drupal or WordPress or Apache or whatever, you're making a withdrawal from a bank, right? The bank of Drupal. And, every time you install a contributed module and update it, like you keep making withdrawals. And the thing about a bank is if you make withdrawals all the time and nobody makes deposits, then it doesn't really work as a bank and it fails pretty quickly. So for us, it's really a best practice. Like when you participate in an open source community, you're constantly benefiting. Like we all know this, right? We benefit from everyone's contributions and work and all the bug fixes and features and everything. And so it's sort of being a good citizen of that community, and you can constantly take withdrawals, but occasionally you've got to make a deposit. So that's why we do it. And that's how we think about it.
I like that. That's a nice analogy. I haven't heard that one before, but it makes a lot of sense. Felicia, you want to address it for your group?
Yeah, I feel like it might sound a little bit the same. I think there's a lot of commonality here. One of our values is to share knowledge openly, so contributing is really important to us as a company. But Drupal is one of the top technologies we use because it's flexible, it's rich, it's supported by this huge community, and it really is a community. And you don't get a vibrant community without giving back to it. And the more you get from the community, the more you need to give back to that community. And I feel like phase 2, we get a lot. So, excellent.
How about you, Ricardo? Why is Drupal so important to you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna echo everything Justin and Felicia just said. Totally agreed with that. And I think that, specifically like contributing back to the community and finding different ways to contribute back to the community, because obviously, right, there's a lot that we can do and a lot that we all do with like the contribution of development back to the community, but also giving back in ways that allow us to get together as a community, right? So one of the things that we do across a lot of the different locations that we're at is focus on how we can help things like Drupal camps happen and Drupal trainings happen, so that we're bringing new folks into the community and really creating a place for that community to get together. Because I think it's a rising tide. Those of us that are in the community, as we get better together and contribute back to it and create spaces for all of us to evolve, it helps all of us.
And Josh, anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, echo all of that. On one of our podcasts recently, I heard it summed up like this: if you depend on open source software, it depends on you. So there's so many benefits to talk about. I think a good way to sum it up is when we contribute to something together collectively, we all reap the benefits of it. So what we all need to keep in mind is just how do we keep that momentum going? How do we lead by example? How do we help our clients, those on the agency side, we serve clients, how do we help them understand the value of contributing back? So there's a lot of community benefits, but there's tremendous business benefits. There's tremendous employee learning opportunities for all of us that we need to continue to underscore. And then lastly, contributions go well beyond code. Justin mentioned it, sponsorships are a big part of, making sure DrupalCon happens every year. Case study, thought leadership, all of those are considered contributions, and we're just trying to lead by example and keep those things going.
That's great. Well, that's well said by all of you, and we certainly appreciate everything you guys do for the community. So, all right, let me bring it back to today's session title, because we had some fun with it. Ricardo, when we spoke the other day, you were actually the one to make the comment about the world being flat again that inspired the title. Can you talk a little bit more about what that means to you?
Yeah, sure. And I guess I should start saying that, for the record, I don't believe the Earth is actually flat, right? But I think that given what we're talking about, it seemed like a good metaphor, because really, and we're all feeling it, right? And just wanted to make sure, since I know this is being recorded and it's going to be out somewhere, but and we're all feeling it, and it's really because the five of us were talking about how it's really been an acceleration in the trends that we've all been seeing for decades, right? And really, the way that I think about it is like the perceived distance between us has shrunk, right? Like all of us as humans, but also as professionals in digital, professionals in business, right? Our relationship with our customers, our clients' relationships with our customers. It's like, it's so with everything moving online, there's just like distance is not really a factor the way that it was 6 months ago, right? And of course, we've all been experiencing this personally, but like one of the things that I keep coming back to and just in my mind and thinking about is at the beginning of quarantine, shelter in place, the New York Times ran this article that was called "The Virus Changed the Way We Internet," right? And I think that it really changed the way that we live life, the way we internet. And I think that, you know, all of us being on the digital agency side, right, the platform side with Acquia, it's like really our responsibility to help the organizations that we work with navigate through what that, you know, changing the way we internet, changing the way we live life really means, and how the reality of everything feeling like it's closer because it's moved to digital, right? Like that impacts all of us as a business and all of us as a community.
I think, can I add to that? Oh, sorry.
Please do.
Yeah, no, that's great, Ricardo. I like this idea of it being flat. I think the other component to it too is sort of its breadth. And I imagine like a big CRT monitor on a desk in like the 90s, and how big a computer was, and like a big tower, and like you could see it, and it was like the keyboard, everything was massive, right? And now it's just like you might sit down in a chair with a laptop and sort of work. And so like technology visibly is sort of almost shorter in that it's like less visible because it's smaller and more compact, and there's phones, but it's all, like the breadth is so much wider, right? And to your point of it being flat, like it's spread throughout the whole world, from, you know, devices to, you know, to computers to just like technology powering everything. So flattening, yes, and I would say like breadth too is another way to think about how it's just sort of everywhere now, but kind of just below the surface.
Yeah, I love that way of thinking about it.
Nice.
I have found the last, 4 months, 6 months, whatever, to be this wild adjustment for us in all things, right? Things we may have thought of as extras or just nice to haves, or things that I thought of as, frivolities I liked, like Instacart, are suddenly just the way you do business. They're the way we live. And that's true for our clients as well, and the people we work with and serve. Anything that helps replace those in-person interactions or just creates completely new digital experiences for people is jumped to the top of the list and becomes so critical to help us connect. And I just, like I said, I think about those things that I used to think of just a few months ago as, wow, am I being extra bougie by getting my groceries delivered? It has suddenly become just a core way everybody has to live their life. I think it's really highlighted the importance of the technology.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm fortunate enough to be a pool owner, and there's a new app that's out that my wife told me about that you can now rent out your pool for the day at like $100 an hour or something.
I just heard about that one.
Yeah, so it's really flipped everything upside down. But what I'm most proud of is how all of our clients have responded and leaned in and didn't take it as a moment to say, woe is me, but to really challenge themselves to look at their business differently. We always said digital. We've always said digital first. Now I feel like it's digital only. We work with an insurance organization and posted a new page today about teledentistry. So I don't know what that looks like yet, but that's going to be interesting to explore. So it's all around us, and I'm just proud of the way our clients just responded to this pandemic with challenging themselves to address it head on.
Josh, I'm just imagining like a significant other holding a chisel to their like mouth, and then the dentist is like, no, hit that tooth, not the other tooth.
Yeah.
I was thinking of a Dremel tool. But similar image. It wasn't good.
We are frightening some of the audience members right now.
No, but I think Josh makes. Oh, sorry, Dave. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Justin.
Well, no, I think Josh makes a really good point though. Like so many organizations sort of we all do, right? We get stuck in like, we do X because like we always did X, right? And I talked to a CFO of a client of ours like 2 months ago, like in the sort of the worst part of the lockdown. And he said, Justin, we had 4 hours to go from 100% in office to 100% virtual. And we all resisted remote work for years, and we had 4 hours of warning, and we've had no problems. And so all they needed was an assumption challenge. They didn't have to figure out anything technologically. It was sort of all there. So I love Josh's sort of idea of like digital only, because it's much easier than I think once you sort of break the habit.
Yeah, nice. And that's something I want to drill into next, right? Because without a doubt, this new reality, what you call the new normal, we've been calling it the new reality. that COVID has brought about is impacting businesses in very different ways. And there are many organizations that do seem to be weathering the storm pretty well. Many who are even thriving, right? And so what I want to know is what's been the key for these organizations that are doing well through this time? Is it a return to basics and fundamentals, or is it more about acceleration of transformation? Felicia, maybe we can start with you. What have you seen?
Well, I think it has been an acceleration of digital transformation, but mixing that with a lot of creativity and really leaning into your purpose, right? I think of our partner at Score who helps small businesses. And this was a time for them to surge forward and reach out to people and use the tools they had to get the message out and explain to small businesses how they could help them. We worked with them on the resilience campaign to reach out to businesses and get the support they needed in a really trying time. For others, they really are doubling down on their transformation. Weight Watchers got laser focused on getting virtual meetings up because that's where their customers were and that's where they needed to be. We've seen different clients across industries adapt and get creative. They're finding ways to grow stronger, like particularly healthcare. Healthcare has amazed me in the last couple of months, not just for the reasons we all already know about being on the front lines and really being the ones fighting the pandemic. I'm in awe of people like Northwell, where they are at Northwell Health in Long Island, where they're in the middle of this, and yet they're still keeping the gas on their digital transformation, even though they're swamped in the middle of the crisis, because they know that's what they need to do to serve their patients now. And that's what they're going to need to do to serve their patients for the next several months and possibly years. So,
yeah, when I think of transformation, I think of disruption. And one of the things that we were really challenged with is getting COVID-related content to the web quickly. And speed to market is a disruption on its own when you're a full-service Drupal agency. You're used to having time to do your strategy, map out your sprints. Now all of a sudden you got 3 weeks to get a full site up. That disrupts your normal workflow, but it really gives you the opportunity to partner more closely with your clients and then challenge yourself as a developer or as an agency to do things differently, right? Because necessity is the mother of invention. But yeah, I agree with a lot of those statements. Healthcare has been doing a really good job of trying to send the message in a easy way for when patients can actually get back into the healthcare facilities. And you can't give them a book that's 20 pages deep. You got to give them a few pages. It's easy to get through and just sends a really calming message that they're ready to help you out.
I will say I've seen it across several of our clients. It's really fun when somebody comes to you and says, I've got to get this site up. We've got to get this COVID data up. And we're like, do you remember that stuff we built for you?
Yeah. Josh and Felicia make great points. I mean, this whole situation has reminded me that sometimes hustle is strategy. Hustle is business strategy. Hustle is digital strategy. And the organizations that are thriving, I think to their point, I totally agree. They just threw things out the window, adapted, and tried new things, right? And you have to. And I think that's why, personally, we're always excited about Drupal when we talk with clients, and a really great cloud platform, and why we often recommend Acquia is because you need those tools that make you faster, not things that slow you down. Because when these situations hit, you need something that's flexible and open that you can just rapidly do some teledentistry to Josh's client. You need the tools, right? It has to look easy to other people that you're able to move this quickly. It never is, but you want to make it look easy. So hustle strategy would be what I would say.
Yeah, nice. So yeah, let's spend a little bit more time talking about websites. Some of you may have heard that Acquia recently announced it's going to be supporting Drupal 7 on Acquia Cloud now through 2024, sort of extending the end of life. There are probably some folks in the audience today who are on Drupal 7, or maybe they're on 8, and they're thinking about how to guide their organizations now that 9 is here. Josh, I know that this is a conversation you're having with a lot of your clients. What kind of advice are you offering in these situations?
Wow, that's a biggie. Well, it's important questions for a lot of reasons. It's been a tough budget year for most. number one. Number two, the move from Drupal 7 typically requires a significant investment. And number three, the extension of D7 end of life was really well received. I think it was really needed on a lot of fronts. So I think that was a great decision to do. But what we typically advise is, if COVID's taught us anything, I mean, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. So on the business side, when clients start trimming budgets, it could impact your agency. So rather than, cut staff or take your marketing budget off the sheet, it's really time to be doubling down to get more awareness for your organization. And it's also, anytime you're looking to do an upgrade, it's a great time to look at your digital strategy overall. So it's not only like the Drupal piece, it's the face of your franchise, it's the digital presence that's more important than ever. And you may need to borrow ahead a few years to get the benefits now. And then I don't think we should forget that, the Drupal community wants to work on new Drupal, not old Drupal. D7's great, supported a lot of us for a lot of years, but those that want to stay on the bleeding edge of technologies don't want to support a platform that's dated. So you could run into some recruiting and retention issues there too. So I think it's changing the mindset of treating it as an opportunity to double down, look at your digital strategy, how it's supporting your business, and use that to build a business case around the investment. And then down the road, it's obviously going to be much, much easier. So you can look at building the business case that this upgrade could support you for the next, 10 years or so. Easy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying, Josh, because there is so much benefit and value in the work that the community is currently doing and doing in the near future, right? As well as like kind of the roadmap looking at Drupal in the long term. And so that's something that we help clients take a look at, right? The organizations we work with, and really look at the decision from that level. Is like anyone that's on Drupal 7 should be weighing what are the costs versus benefit of sticking with the D7, and just because you can, should you, right? And understanding what some of like the great improvements that have happened in Drupal 8 are now happening with Drupal 9 or going into Drupal 10, right? Which I know Dries started touching upon earlier this week, right? Really understanding like, are those things that you would benefit from sooner than the D7 end of life date?
Great. Go ahead, please.
Sorry, I was just enjoying that. Josh really summed up a lot of what I've been telling clients, and it's been, we're getting a little bit of a state of execution is a terrible way to put it, but we're getting a little bit more time than we had. And some people that were replatforming just to replatform get the opportunity to now breathe about it and really think about their strategy and how they want to transform, not just rush to get off 7, which is nice. But there isn't a reason to just wait either.
All right. And so on that theme sort of rushing and having urgency or taking your time, when you think about digital transformation, it really isn't something that you would recommend to organizations. Hey, just wing it, right? You'll figure it out, approach it casually. Ricardo, again, this is something we talked about the other day, right? What are maybe some of those important frameworks and roadmaps that you like to educate and guide your clients around?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and it fits really well into the Drupal 7, Drupal 8, Drupal 9, and that roadmap, because I do think that like when you're thinking about the frameworks, I really think there's two parts to it, right? And I know we don't have this could be a whole 2-hour session that I'm sure we could all speak to on how to go about planning. But I think at a high level, it's really comes down to two things. The first one is building understanding and consensus within your organization on the why you're taking on a digital initiative, right? Which goes to exactly what Josh and Felicia were just saying with Drupal 7 to Drupal 8 to Drupal 9. And then second, creating that roadmap, that plan that really starts outlining the what, the when, the how, and the who, right? Because I think that one of the mistakes that I know I've I've personally made in the past in my career, I know a lot of organizations do, is equating digital to just technology, right? And digital really means so much more than technology, and you need successful collaboration across different business areas, right? Whether it's user experience and content strategy and how that feeds into the decisions you're making on the technology stack, considerations that you have for customer data, privacy, how you're using that data, right, in your experimentation and optimization practice. If you don't have a roadmap to kind of answer those 5 big questions of like the why, what, when, how, and who, right? I feel like you'll make some progress, but you won't get to where you want to be years from now.
Excellent. Anybody else around the room that that has thoughts on like certain frameworks that you like to highlight as you're getting underway with digital transformation initiatives?
I mean, I think we can all agree that requirements and gaining consensus on what's important is always really difficult, especially in the large enterprise. But I know in higher ed, an area we spend a lot of time in, we're rethinking just what that digital experience looks like with COVID. I mean, here's a university where you may not be able to get on campus. So how do you describe your culture in a virtual setting? And is your messaging the way it's always been in COVID in converting prospective applicants to students? So it's a complete reinvention of messaging on a lot of fronts and a lot of different verticals. And that requires a lot of conversation, a lot of, data-driven strategy work, and really just talking to the audience and the personas that you need to hit and getting their input on what they're expecting.
I think that was the one thing I was going to add, because I really love that Ricardo started with the why. Why are you doing this? And then making sure you get consensus. And somewhere right in the middle there is also be prepared to be surprised when you dig into your research and the data, because it really is about what you were saying, Josh, and meeting your customers, your patients, your students where they are. And today it may be very different than it was yesterday. There's also really it's not so much a transformation. There's no butterfly at the end of this. It's let's tackle the first most important thing, and then we're going to get the next one and the next one and the next one. It's never done.
Felicia,
always
I love what you say.
moving to the next thing.
Sorry, I thought you were done. Go ahead. I
am done now.
It was a little delay. No, I love what you said about data. It's so true. I love that Netscape CEO quote. If we have data, we're going with that. If all we have are opinions, we're going with mine. Data is a great way to all of you, to Ricardo and Felicia's point. It's a great way to sort of focus and get decision makers aligned. Totally agree.
And I think
that is a fantastic quote. I got to write that one down.
Yeah, I love that. And what you said, Felicia, also reminded me that like it's important to look at topics of transformation and kind of the long-term strategy, but it's just as important to look at the operations and execution of that long-term strategy that you have, because somewhere along the middle, like you said, Felicia, right, like something unexpected will happen and you'll have to shift and rethink how you're going about your plan.
Pretty sure the DrupalCon planners had that happen to them at some point this year.
Yeah, and they did an awesome job pivoting.
All right, let's hang on this theme of data that you guys just brought up. And Justin, you are a great source of amusing and amazing quotes. So I think we seem to agree that the new customer experience and our collective definition of omnichannel is now digital first. But my question is that enough, right? At Acquia, we don't think so. We've put a finer point on it, and we actually say that in order to do digital right, you really need to be data first. So I'd love to just get some thoughts from around the room on this notion of data first as a critical component to enabling digital first. Anybody can jump in on this one.
Yeah, I think I'll jump in real quick and say I think that it is it's garbage in, garbage out with data, right? And there's so much that you can do if you have good data and you're kind of analyzing it, but if you don't have the right insights on it, then what are you going to do with it? And it's also about realizing there's steps to it. Like we are working with a couple customers right now, financial institutions actually, where kind of similar to what Felicia and Josh were talking about. They're thinking about how do they engage with their customers, and we're helping to put together personalization roadmaps, right? And some of these customers are using the Acquia. Dave, make sure I get it right, because it's Acquia Personalization is the name of the product now, right? As of this week. But using that, right, and making sure that there's kind of a plan to, again, to that idea of road mapping, where like first you need to make sure you gather the data, then you use that data to build your different audience segments that then you can finally then use to bring in that multidisciplinary team of digital experts to think about the user experience, the content, the technology, so that you're delivering meaningful experiences to those different audiences for this financial institution. So I think it's all about taking steps to it and being realistic about those steps.
Yeah, I agree. That's well said, Ricardo. Data is powerful. It certainly can be misused, but it is like the path to finding the way forward. It makes it easier to measure and actually determine progress when you're focused on data at the beginning. I think the other lesson we've learned over the years with being data focused is that probably the most valuable data you need is in like 5% of the data you gather. And often, like you're not gathering that 5%. It could be an analytics question, or it could be sort of teasing out like a broader data set, like a business intelligence, but it's not just collection. Like you need to collect thoughtfully, but then you really need to have like good instincts, I think, to really go towards the meaningful pieces of it, to I think substantively add to a discussion, because it can get distracting. But to Dave's point as well, data ultimately I think is the best input for a creative experience. Like that's the input to an experience that brings delight to a user. And so I think you've got to get the data first at the beginning. So I would agree with what Dave said.
Yeah, I was trying to focus my thoughts on this so I didn't ramble, because I feel like I could ramble about data for a very, very long time and not make a lot of sense. And somebody said to me, and I loved it, is data is the representation, the manifestation of the customer in our world. Like it's their fingerprint. And so it's so critical to understand and capture the right information to identify and understand them. So.
Yeah, I was excited to see the data analyst and the data science position, come through what we do on the website. It wasn't the case, 7-8 years ago, and now it's one of the more in-demand roles we have. And then I don't think this area is mature at all. I mean, some organizations are having a hard time just capturing data, let alone reading it and cleaning it. And then we got to continue to ask the question why and challenge each other when someone wants to make a significant investment. If the proof's in the pudding there, and is it just someone in a boardroom with their hands up in the air because it's a preference, or is it really going to have an impact on the business? And that can only be proved out with data. It's the numbers that don't lie.
Great. Thanks, guys. All right, next question. I think it's a safe thing to say that Drupalists believe that open is better. Many people probably associate the term open with open source, which certainly isn't wrong, but to us, it's also more than that. So I'm interested to hear your thoughts on what open means to each of you and why your teams love creating with open platforms. Justin, I happen to know that this is something you've got a point of view on.
Yeah, so open's can mean different things, right? Open source, we all know that. We all know why it's great. That's why we're all here. But open, I think in the broader sense of, and this is why Acquia's positioning on it resonates, is it's an open ecosystem. And Acquia has a great collection of tools, and you could use some of them or all of them, but they're open first, so they're okay and happy to have other things that aren't their particular technology integrated with that stack. And the reason I think that that's powerful is something I call like the car boat problem. So if you like go into YouTube or you play some of these videos, there's these people who always want to make a car that's also a boat. So like you get in your car, You drive to the lake and you drive it into the lake because it's also a boat. But what you discover is that when you try to make something that's a great car and a great boat, it's a shitty car and a shitty boat. So it's really hard to do like 20 things really well. And so I think that's why open frameworks will end up winning, because you can take a great, subset of that solution, and then you can plug in one or two things that into that ecosystem seamlessly, and that platform that does most of it is happy to have those other components in that ecosystem, because you want sort of best of breed of sort of every angle of what you're trying to do, and everyone has different problems. So that's kind of how I think about open, and that's why it's I think it provides value to some of the clients we talk with.
I think you're absolutely right. I didn't actually just talk to Frank, our CTO, about this for a personal project not that long ago, and why did we chosen open technologies as the way we wanted to work at phase 2. And it was all about, we want to be able to be flexible and make the right decisions and the right moves for our customers. And things change so fast in this world. So everything you were saying about, an open platform and being able to plug in the right things at the right time completely supports that. That's critical to reacting to global pandemics and several other things that might come your way in business.
Yeah, I think the velocity is really an important part of it. And then being able to shape the technology day in, day out is, I think, attractive to all of us who are blessed to be in this industry where we got left brain and right brain happening every day, and nothing's a dull moment. We're only as limited by what we can conjure up, and that's only in the open source arena. I think the closed source stuff just has a really difficult time keeping up, and will eventually run out of gas.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And the one note I'll add, because I agree with everything that's been said, is that open really means, to me, collaboration, right? Obviously, we're collaborating in Drupal as a community, like we come together at DrupalCon, but I think it's also important for, FFW being an agency. It's so important for us to make sure that we bring that open approach also to just our collaboration approach with the organizations that we partner with, right? Whether that's on the technology platform side, as is the case with Acquia, working with our customers, right? It's when you have that open collaboration, right? It makes things like working with one of our global retail clients, right, to shift in the world of COVID-19 much faster, because we've already have that practice of working collaboratively and working as an integrated team.
Excellent. Thanks. Go ahead, Felicia. One last thought on this.
Totally different direction in this. One of the things I've found is, we invest in mentoring people in our organization and growing new technologists in the world. And that is so much easier to do when the tools you're bringing people up on are free and accessible. If you're trying to teach someone something they had to go buy a license for, it would be a very different experience and a lot less accessible.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you for each jumping in on that one. Last question here. And before I open it up, just one last reminder for our folks attending today to use the Q&A window, submit some questions, and we will have a few minutes for those at the end. All right, so I host a blog series on Acquia.com. It's called CMO Secrets. We've had some really incredible guests over the past couple of years, including Acquia's own Lynn Capozzi. One of their favorite moments is when I open it up for them to rant or rave, and I thought I would try that here. So you're each going to get about 30 seconds to get up on that soapbox, talk about something you feel strongly about. Could be a great digital experience you had, a terrible one, shout out a customer you love. Maybe it's an industry jargon you want to, give a +1 for because it's underrepresented, or something you'd like to never hear again. Talk about TikTok, talk about Quibi, talk about digital dating, whatever you want. 30 seconds, anything goes. Josh, you want to lead us off here?
Yeah, I just got a new puppy, and I was posting the puppy on a popular social network, and within 5 minutes, I had an email in my inbox for a retailer looking to send me and sell puppy related things to me. I'm now getting a lot more ads in my streaming service as I'm binge watching related to dog food. And I'm seeing this connected experience that's kind of creepy, but very relevant. And I think that's one thing that we all need to kind of embrace and start collaborating on what good personalization and relevancy means. And it's a really complex topic, but I think it's going to be one that's going to be getting a lot more conversation in the days, months, years to come. And then also just, I think it's more important for all of us just to help each other out. So when you're working with clients, working with team members, take an extra moment just to ask them how they're doing and how you can help them, because we got to get through this together, and signs are showing it's going to be longer than we initially thought. So just really want to underscore the importance of supporting each other through this pandemic.
Thanks, Josh. Nicely done. Felicia, you want to go?
Ooh, that was a pretty good one from Josh. I was thinking about South Park and the ads are alive. We did these predictions for 2019. We set out with holiday cards back there. And then mine was, 2019 was going to be the year of video because, my niece only ever called by FaceTime. And that was how we were going to finally move forward into that world. 2020 proved to be that year for very different reasons than I ever expected. I was obviously a year off. But, if nothing else, this challenging several months has proven to me anything we can do to make our virtual interactions richer and deeper and more meaningful is a good investment of our time and technology. I'm a sci-fi geek. So, I'm all about holodecks and sensory gloves and a million other fanciful ideas for how that might progress in the future. But just even examples of like this conference and things that we can do to make our interactions with our clients better and with our remote team day to day, I think is going to improve us overall and pay big dividends. Even if we were to wave a magic wand tomorrow and make all the pandemic go away, that's still a worthwhile investment for people that have to be away from their families, for people that don't work in the office, for people that, need to stay connected in a fast-paced world. So I hope we continue to work on these tools and make them better.
Thanks, Felicia. Ricardo?
Yeah, to jump off of Felicia's sci-fi point, which I love. I'm excited about digital experiences evolving away from screens. Because I found for me personally, like being, sheltering in place, I have been using my Alexa speaker and like voice interfaces so much more. And I think it's because like so much of my life is revolving around the screen with not just work, but video calls, like Felicia was saying, that it's nice to stay connected without a screen in front of me, right? Like one app I've been using literally every day is the NPR One app, which just does an awesome job with that. And I was really excited to see here at DrupalCon that there was different conversations around thinking about how to structure content for that. And it's one of the things that makes me so excited about, being in the Drupal space is I really think that Drupal as a content management system has a leg up over other technologies for solving that structured data problem, because it's really the key to making sure that that data is accessible, right, by different people across different devices that can, consume that content in different ways.
Right on. All right, Justin, bring us home.
Well, Ricardo and Felicia, I have bad news. I think Josh might have won the panel because he now has a trending hashtag show the puppy in the stage chat.
Definitely would.
He brought a puppy to this fight, so I can't top that. Mine's a little mundane, but my rant is not showing budgets in website RFPs. And might be controversial to the attendees here, but I think that every agency has a different sort of point where they're really good at sort of a different kind of project or team or approach. And a budget is a really instantly quick way for an agency to know, yep, I can do a great job at that price point, or no, I can't do a great job at that price point, whether it's too high or too low. I get frustrated that, brands don't want to put that in the RFP, because I think ultimately they'll get better bids because they'll get bids around the budget that they have, and then they'll be able to choose from, ones they can all afford, as opposed to getting a pitch they might fall in love with and they see the price tag and they're like, oh man, I can't do that. That's mine.
All right. All right, excellent. Well, I have to say this is on me. We got caught up and we had a little too much fun with this panel. We really didn't leave too much time for audience questions. So maybe with the last 30 seconds, I just want to make sure folks know the best way to get in touch with each of you guys and your teams. So Josh, if you just want to go first, what's the best way for folks in the audience to reach out to Media Current?
Yeah, just just go to our website, MediaCurrent.com. We also, of course, are a sponsor of DrupalCon, have a booth.
Okay, Ricardo?
Yep, stop by the FFW virtual booth. They've been quite fun with some chats there, et cetera. And then ffwagency.com is where you can find us. So go on over to the contact page.
Great. Justin?
thirdandgrove.com or justin@thirdandgrove.com. Shoot me an email.
Cool. Felicia? Oh, you're muted, Felicia.
No,
You're back. Go.
Check out our booth, check us out at phase2technology.com or fhaines at phase2technology.
That is our time, folks. We'll try to do better next time. Thanks so much for being here. Really appreciate our panelists. Well done. Everyone have a great day, and we hope to see you again real soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thanks, Gal.